Amsterdam has an amazing cast, but feels like a little something's missing, and the insanity that is Triangle of Sadness. Those are the two movies that we're going to be talking about this week on this week's episode of Movie Time with Blake and myself. So, you know what time it is. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite snack. It's movie time coming at you now. Hey, what's up, everybody? It is another episode of Movie Time. We got the movie boys back in the house. What's going on? Got myself, Rene, LOWKEY GEEK, here with my boy, Blake Wolf. What's going on, my
What
brother?
up? Mr. Rene, good to see you. What a
Yeah.
week for movies? What a week for like my kind of movies.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking, I haven't seen Tar yet, but we're talking about Amsterdam, Triangle of Sadness. I saw them both in the last couple days. I want to hear, you saw Tar.
I saw
mean,
Tar. Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
It's like you said, we are in full blown movie season right now, especially end of the year. As a lot of you may know, Oscar season is upon us, so all the movies are coming out. New York Film Festival has been running for a week now, and I've had a chance to catch a couple of flicks there that I was really very happy to see, and Tar was definitely part of that. But just seeing Kate Blanchett in person, I was just in awe.
What a
And
dream.
oh my gosh, she's like one of my all-time favorites, and did not disappoint one bit. Just hearing her speak, talk about the movie, and the movie is fantastic. If you don't know or you haven't seen it yet, I have my review of the movie on the channel right now. You could check it out. I also have the full discussion that took place after the screening of the movie, which was really delight to see. I mean, Nina Hoss was there, Todd Field was there too, and it's just so. I love hearing them talk about working together, the chemistry, the process, all that stuff. And this discussion was really, really well done. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely do check it out. But yeah, I can't wait for you to see it so that we can talk about it, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a lot of feelings and thoughts about that movie.
Bro, I cannot wait. It's not only New York Film Festival and Oscar season, as you said. We also have so many holidays. We have cuffing season. There's a full
Oh,
moon this past weekend. It's spooky season, if you weren't
that's
aware.
right.
So,
That's
and I'm
right.
thinking about, I know we're getting to Amsterdam. I'm thinking about doing Christian Bale's costume. I don't know if that's
Okay.
allowed, but that's high on my list now.
Okay.
So,
A lot of prosthetics probably be involved in it. You got to find a way to get the eye to pop out every now and then.
okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Happened a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can just use my real eyes because it's spooky season.
Hey, it was like, yeah, definitely spooky season for sure, which is interesting because you're not into like the horror movies and all that. And we've gotten some really good ones recently.
No.
Everyone keeps talking about Barbarian, which I haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen yet. The new Halloween movie comes out this week, which I don't know. That could be interesting for sure. Smile. Smile is the number one hit right now. As of this weekend, they're predicting it to be number one again over Amsterdam and Lyle Crocodile, which I thought we were going to talk about today, but for some reason we just never had a chance to watch it.
Oh man, it was every theater was sold out. It's the most popular movie right now, so I
Yeah,
couldn't. And then Smile. I'm just gonna do a quick aside before we get into it. And
sure.
for the record, Triangle of Sadness. I think it's a horror movie. There's a couple moments we'll get
It can be
into.
pretty horrific, yes, for sure. Yeah.
For Smile, I had a friend who they're telling me a story. They're on the subway platform and they see a person at the end of the platform just
Oh
doing the
no.
smile.
Oh no.
And they're like freaked out. They're like, this person not looking at me. Okay, they're probably just they're probably just out of it. They walk down the platform, they see another person on the other end. At this point, we had not had the baseball games yet, and
Oh
people
yeah.
knowing about this viral campaign, which what a bizarre and amazing turn for like, oh, this is how movies are going to advertise themselves now. I don't know,
Right.
maybe
Why
it's what we
not?
can expect. But this person was properly freaked out, and then we go, oh hey, have you heard about this viral campaign? Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. But they were properly creeped out. So
I
happy
mean,
spooky
wouldn't you?
season.
Wouldn't you
Yeah. Oh my
be like
gosh. Yeah. No, for sure.
especially
I'm walking home at that point. Yeah.
yeah, especially like could you just imagine if you're like sitting on the subway and you just happen to like lift your head up and the person sitting across from you is just smiling, staring at
Mm.
you That
Mm.
would like I would be like, all right, I'm out. Next stop, I don't care what stop it is, I'm out of here.
And on the platform, no less, it's pushing season too, as we all New
It's
Yorkers
been
know.
pushing season, yes.
One in every two New Yorkers has been pushed onto a subway platform in the
Yeah,
last month, apparently, according to the
yeah,
news. So, whew,
yeah.
glad we've been staying safe indoors and going to the movies. My
Yes,
favorite thing
exactly.
to do once it turns cold. Mm.
Totally, totally. It's a great time for it, and we're excited to talk about these two movies that we had a chance to see. So before we get into all of that, obviously, if you're brand new to this channel, you come across this video and you see these two knuckleheads going back and forth talking about crazy stuff like subways and smiling and spooky seasons and all that stuff like that. Welcome. This is the Movie Time podcast, where every week we talk about and bullshit about movies. If you haven't done so already, you like what you see and you want to see more of these two knuckleheads, don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe. We are growing this channel, but most importantly, comment, comment, comment. We love the
Comment, comment, comment,
conversations that
comment,
we
comment.
have with all of you. Had some great conversations and back and forth on a lot of topics that we talked about. So definitely do that. If you are looking for an audio version of this, if you want to listen to us and our lovely voices on your way to work, school, what have you, you could find this episode and so much more on the Low Key Geek channel there on your podcast platform of choice. Make sure just type it out, Low Key Geek. You'll find it. Download this and all the other episodes available. So always appreciate all of your support and love, because every season should have some love in it, don't you think?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always
Sure.
Valentine's Day in the comment section. That's what I say.
That's it. That's what I live by. That's what I go with. So yeah, so first on our list today is Amsterdam. So Amsterdam, it's David O. Russell. We haven't seen a movie of his since Joy came out, I believe, in 2016. I want to
Mm.
say.
Wow.
It's been a minute. Very well known director, but I think the thing that really drew a lot of attention to this movie is the ensemble cast. I mean, this cast is insane. Yeah, Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert De Niro, Rami Malek, Chris Rock, Timothy Olyphant, Zoe Saldana, Michael Shannon, and Taylor Swift. If that wasn't enough,
Phew.
she decides to keep wanting to act for some reason, and she is in this movie. So huge cast, but how does a cast like this do with a certain movie like this? I'll tell you right now my thoughts on the whole thing. So I went to see this in the theater just yesterday, actually. So I was able to catch it in my local theater. Not a packed theater. It was a good, it was like maybe halfway full and all that. Um, this isn't the type of movie that you'll hear a lot of audio reactions, at least for most of it, right? It was hard for me to kind of read the room after the movie was done. I wasn't sure if people liked it, if people enjoyed it.
Yep.
I kind of understand also because of my own takeaway and my feeling. I'll say this first: the chemistry between Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and John David
Mm.
Washington was on point. Every time
Hell
they
yeah.
were on screen, I loved it. I love their back and forth. I love their conversations. The story is based off of a true story that really happened, and if this really reenacts the chemistry between the three friends and all that, I think it's lovely. It's beautiful. It's great. All the other
Yep.
supporting actors, even though
Yep.
it's kind of weird calling them supporting actors, I think they did what they had to do. I think, it was nice to see the back and forth with Zoe Saldana. Chris Rock would appear every now and then and do his little shtick and everything. Rami Malek is Rami Malek, and I think he did his job brilliantly well. The fact that he is with Anya Taylor Joy, I think, is like a perfect match for some reason because they're both kind of out there and kind of weird. Um, and
Mhm.
what did you want to say, Blake?
I was going to throw in, so what it says in the very beginning is a lot of this really happened, is the
Yeah.
exact line.
Hmm.
I haven't done a deep dive. There are plenty of articles you can pull up real quick on that if you want, if you're into that.
Sure.
But my understanding is that the three friends are the main fictionalization. The
Okay.
true story is the background
Th-
plot,
Gotcha.
which we will get
Okay.
to in a second. But
Right.
that
Okay.
historical event is roughly what happened with some
Okay.
details. but that the friends who are making those moves, it's kind of like Forrest Gump. A lot of that really happened, but Forrest Gump isn't a real dude, right?
Right, right.
I think.
I mean, I think I don't know.
He's real to me. I went to Bubba Gump Shrimp Company in Times Square a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago, and he's real, but you know what I mean.
I'm
That's my
pretty sure
understanding.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Forrest in one of those pictures, like in the background, hanging out with JFK and all that. So I'm pretty sure that's real. But okay, no, that makes total sense. So it's a fictional friendship that helps
Fictionalization, yes.
narrate the story as we're going through it, as if they're us, right? We're like the audience being like carried through the events there.
Yes, which is wild, just because this is now a movie. If you ask what it's about two things. It's about these three friends and their lovely adventures,
Yeah,
and it's about an anti-fascism
right.
campaign.
Mhm.
And so at the end of the day, the real plot is an anti-fascism plot, and then you have these three characters just kind of going about the world. I'll get into my thoughts in a minute when you're done, but I did definitely want to interrupt and like
No,
because
no,
that
that's
base a
great.
lot of this really happened quote those things matter at the beginning of a lot of these
Sure.
movies. How they say that will kind of
Mhm.
tells you a good bit.
No, definitely, and it definitely helps me like put it more into perspective and all that. But so yeah, so like I was saying, the chemistry between the main three is brilliant. This, if I were just to judge this movie on just that alone, on their like little adventures together, their experiences going through it, then I thought this movie was really really nicely done. Like I liked that aspect of it. Everything else, the historical details, or the big reveal at the end as to what exactly is happening, and like you said, it's basically this is literally after World War I. This is several years separated from the beginning of maybe World War II. Hitler is still in the mix somehow, and now you have like Nazis trying to infiltrate our government, to try to get them on board with them, and all that kind of stuff like that. you know Fascinating stuff if you are into those historical details and all that. And by the way, I also should mention Mike Myers is in this movie,
Yes.
who he seems to be cast in the same type of role now every time as some sort of like
Oh yeah.
intelligence person,
Uh,
like within like the MI6 or whatever the case is. That seems to be
well,
his type of go-to roles now.
that's Austin Powers' career trajectory.
Right.
Obviously, is he's playing
Yeah.
Austin Powers doing an undercover, but that's his promotion. I think it's
Right.
all part of the same APU.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely is, and they love birds too. So they're like avid bird watchers. Him and Michael Shannon, which I thought was pretty funny. And that's the thing. There's a lot of like funny parts throughout this movie that I would chuckle at, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's pretty funny," or "That's cute." But for me, the tone of the movie, for the most part, was very bland. I felt like it was very uh, not one note, but I felt bored a lot, to be honest with you. Like there wasn't. This is not your energetic type of movie. It's not something that kind of like you'll find yourself like on the edge of your seat every time something happens. I think maybe it happened once, and that's when spoiler alert, Taylor Swift's character, pretty
Oh
much
god.
bites it. Um,
Quickly.
really quickly, which is probably a good thing because I thought her acting was just like, all
Mm.
right, enough. Um, that's just my
Okay, we're
opinion.
gonna get death threats on that one. Thank you a lot, Renee. Well, we love it when people comment, even if
Hey,
it's about what Renee just said. To all you
yeah,
Swifties out there, have fun.
sorry. Yeah, hey, she's a great artist. She really is. It just sometimes people should stick to one thing and not have to necessarily do other things, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And she's tried acting in the past, and every time it's been okay. It's the same feeling I have with Beyonce. I think Beyonce should not
Oh
act at
no,
all,
no,
period.
no. We do not want to activate the
Oh, come
beehive.
on. Let's go.
I'm
Let's
agnostic
go.
towards all of these opinions. Let the record reflect. We will enter a truce immediately with any members of the Swifty. What are the Swift people called? And the beehive immediately. Here. I have a white flag on me, and yep, we give up. Thank you. You win. We love the comments. Thank you so much, Renee. Way to go. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
activated some controversy.
that's
Goodness
fine. Hey, why
gracious.
not? Come on. Comment.
We haven't
Come
even
on,
released
come,
this yet, and I feel like they're about to just like come in through the windows. Ugh.
come at me. Come at me.
No,
Yeah,
no,
all
you
that.
don't know. He doesn't know what he's
But
saying. I'm so sorry. Oh gosh.
but like I said, for me personally, the movie felt very bland. It felt very like boring at times. I actually did kind of doze off a little bit sometimes in certain areas of the movie. The movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes, which is not terribly long, but there were certain scenes I felt were a little bit extended more than they should have been. A lot of artistic choices were done, especially since Margot Robbie's character of Valerie is a very artful person, very creative. She has an interesting eye on art and what is considered art. Very interesting how she would take a lot of the shrapnel collected from all the bodies in the war and turn that into art. So definitely different. But outside of like I said, the main story between the three, I felt the majority of the movie was just very bland and not really exciting. I don't know if that was the choice of the director or that's just how it is because his past movies I felt like have similar tones to them, but I at least found it more fascinating and interesting and a little bit more energetic in certain times. And again, maybe that's just me. But it definitely is not one of those movies where I'm just like, oh, you have to go out and rush and watch this right away because it is one of the best movies of the year. Da, 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 da. Definitely not that. Especially knowing that they spent $80 million on this movie and it's gonna get beat out by Smile, out of all things. So yeah, definitely. I didn't hate it, um, but I didn't love it, and I have a feeling that if you were to ask me about this movie 2 weeks from now, I might forget a lot about it. So that's just my take on it. Again, very curious as to what your thoughts on the movie is there, Blake.
Yeah, for sure. I overall enjoyed it, and the reviews are coming in. They are not good. We're talking 33% on Rotten
Mm,
Tomatoes. Not ideal. I think on Letterboxd, 2.7 out of 5
wow,
stars.
wow.
This is gonna, just off the top, this is gonna have to be one of David O. Russell's lower ranking movies for sure,
Hmm.
especially after he's had so many beloved projects.
Yep. Oh, hold on.
Same audience for, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you're cut. Oh, now oh, you're back. There you go.
Okay. I'm just saying, I think this is, I'm the prime audience for this movie, and I did not leave the theater giving it rave reviews. And other people, they're going to be, I'm assuming, feel like it's even more inaccessible and they're not going to be as into it. There's a few reasons why this is a prime movie for The Wolf. We're talking the Margot Robbie, the art there. We're talking World War One, and then the rise of fascism in Europe. Just not that I'm a fan of the rise of fascism, but that those historical moments are really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's got the David O. Russell indie movie sensibilities, but this one's a pretty big scope for him. It's normally
Huge.
tighter dramas, even though The Fighter, like it has some action movie elements to it, right? But it's more intense character studies, philosophical concepts being illustrated through interpersonal relationships, great character development, etc. This one was huge, and you mentioned the cast.
Yeah.
Going down the cast list, I get 13 names deep before I see someone who's not a bona fide star.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift, movie star, Timothy Olyphant, movies and TV, my understanding. But
Hmm.
like Michael Shannon is number 13 on the list I'm looking at. And it's
Yeah.
not based, it's just the Google, like, who are the most common, popular people, whatever. That's wild.
It's crazy.
I think just based on like the casting, like this could get I think it's what the Golden Globes Ensemble Cast
Ensemble
Award.
cast. Right. Yeah.
Just based on that, like how did you get that many people in a room together?
Hmm.
Like the Golden Globes couldn't even get that many famous people in a room together last year.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So as a fan of movies, I really enjoyed just seeing any moment where you're seeing Rami Malek interact with Robert De Niro and Mike
Mm.
Myers is in the corner and at the center is Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Christian Bale, Chris Rock popping up. Like there were so many moments I just go, thank you for making this movie. The plot, I really enjoyed the fun adventure of those three friends. I think you were saying that's the thing that worked most for you.
Yeah.
I also really like I hate fascism very, very much. I am passionate about it. I donate some of my free time against fascist causes. Um, I love the political philosophy of this movie. I love the actors. I enjoyed the trio and their adventures. It was kind of screwbally and madcappy
Hmm.
at times. Some parts of it felt more like an old Hollywood movie
Right.
than something newer. I don't know. I do know that there's something missing because otherwise, based on all those facts, I should have loved this movie.
Right.
And I think there's something it's almost like there's a personal human element missing. And I listened to one reviewer on the big picture talking about David O. Russell has, you can feel free to look it up, has some stories of his past and some allegations and even just like being a very domineering movie director. And the person's theory was essentially that he's doing an anti-fascism movie and a movie about decency, almost as like not quite an apology, but it's like someone has a revelation, like I haven't been a good person. I'm going to make a
Hmm.
movie about how people should be good without it necessarily having. So it felt like there was something missing, intangible enough. Because based on paper, this should have been my favorite movie of the year so far, but there's
Right.
something missing of the storytelling. And like you said, some scenes went on too long. It's like it needed more editing or a clearer
Hmm.
direction. The meandering was fun where they're on their adventures and traveling around, but there's times in a movie where there's too much of that, like what's it called, not a vision quest, but that that where their characters are on a mission going around city to city to put the pieces together to solve the puzzle or
Right.
whatever.
Right. Yeah.
That should have been funner, and it felt a little more misguided or something, more aimless. So if it had punched, if the punch, and there's many scenes where I'm laughing, if
Oh
it
yeah.
had more punches per minute of just great scene, cool moment, funny dialogue, whatever, but it felt like there was too much hot air in the middle of it.
Hmm.
For my theater experience, I did a very late show at a farther away theater. So there's probably like 30 people maybe,
Yeah.
and it feels fairly empty. Not a lot of audience reaction. I laughed probably more than other folks around
Same.
me.
Hmm.
There's a few moments that absolutely floored me. I really got into it. Other than that, I think the only other thing I'm going to mention is like Margot Robbie's character is really interesting to me.
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't tell to what degree the art was based on like Magritte or other artists of that time. I really enjoyed that character, but there's also something where I couldn't quite tell where there's the manic pixie dream girl problem. And in some ways, she has that, where she's spurning the adventures, helping fulfill the purpose of these men, and is in some ways kind of backgrounded or victimized or sidelined in some ways. In other ways, she's not the manic pixie dream girl. She's a hero of the story. And also, I have this list on Letterboxd I'm starting to work on. It's in its infancy, but it's called depressed pixie dream girl is kind of the idea, and it's
Oh.
like there's the girl who in movies there's the one where there's the manic pixie dream girl full
Yeah.
of life spurning the character on. There's the one who's like very sad and depressive, and
Hmm.
that inspires the male character and he falls in love with her and she's like a wounded bird or something. So she's still, it's a similar problem with like a lack of agency and fulfilling a stereotype,
Hmm.
and that filling a part of the movie. In some ways, this character had traits of that too. I'm not necessarily, I think I would need to rewatch it or think about it some more before making a judgment on
Hmm.
this movie had this problem. I'm guessing if I Googled those, the think pieces would already be there and ready to go. Other than that, overall, I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I had a great feeling about the movie. I don't know how soon I'm going to want to watch it again. I don't think it ranks very highly on my David O. Russells, who a few years ago I would have listed as one of my favorites. Like he was in Noah Baumbach, Christopher
Hmm.
Nolan kind of territory for favorite current film directors. We're talking Silver Linings Playbook. I actually
Yeah.
enjoyed Joy, even though a lot of people didn't. Back in high school, as an indie emo hipster kid, in blossoming, like I Heart Huckabees was
Oh
incredibly
yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Woo! So we're talking about that same director, and I also got to give it up for The Fighter, like an incredible
Oh,
movie, different than all those other
100%.
projects for sure.
Hmm.
So I think based on the standards I would hold David O. Russell to, some aspects of this where it's not as tight as it should have been, while it has so many other pieces, he's really good at his casts, his dialogue. There's certain things man is really good at. There's something in this movie missing, but I think I probably at the end of the day I probably give it 4 stars out of 5 for myself. We're more. It's if it was going to go one way or the other, it's like 3.5 more than 4.5, and like that's not really good considering
Mhm.
how primed I was to love every ounce of this movie on paper.
Yeah, and it's also the pedigree of the director, right? Like we're
Hmm.
so used of him really coming out with like this really like massive, and it's been what we said. Joy didn't come out for since 2016, right? So it's been a minute. So of course you're expecting something huge coming out from him in his next effort, especially with a
December
cast.
2015. So that's we're
There you
looking
go.
at just under 7 years. That's
Yeah.
wild.
That's a long time,
Hmm.
and you have a cast like this. You have the budget that he was given for this movie, and it falls a little flat. And I think you said it best. It felt like there's just something missing. Whatever that is, it's missing, and it didn't make me like fall in love with this movie because like you, it this is the type of movie that I should have fallen in love with because you have all these great actors together, riffing off of each other, doing things together. If there's one thing that you can say is like the majority of the acting in this was really well done. Christian Bale, I mean, him alone is like anything Christian Bale does is just phenomenal. John David Washington, he's still this new upcoming actor, but he's finding himself in all of these like major movies and roles. So he does have kind of like that thing that his own dad has, which is really interesting. De Niro, who's an O. Russell regular at this point. So it's it should have been a better movie. But it just like you said, it felt like just something was terribly missing. Going back to the Margot Robbie character of the way you explained it, I already see it in my head. So you must have Helena Bonham Carter's character from Fight Club in that list. Yeah. Oh, I
Yes,
think you're muted.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, you must have Kate Winslet from Eternal Sunshine in
I'm
that
throwing it
list.
on there, bro. Good
Yes.
call. I literally started. I got 3 in, and I was like multitasking. I was like, okay, I'll get back to
Yeah.
that later. I hadn't like done a deep dive. There was a few that
Yeah.
hit me real quick. Good call. All right, we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, there has been quite a few movies with that particular character type, and so it's not a new thing. Like we've seen these kind of characters before. I think the thing missing with her character in this movie, though, was that it didn't feel as tragic at a certain point. Like I always felt
Yeah.
like with these other characters, there's that moment where it's like really tragic, and you get very emotional about it, and you really feel like oh my gosh, this poor thing. Because everything seems to be kind of glossed over and kind of like sugar coated or put a
Mm.
happy layer over it. Because
Yeah.
in this movie, and again, this is a slight spoiler here. The character finds out that she has an ailment, and she's taking like medication. But then it turns out that the medication she was taking, maybe she shouldn't have been taking, because like she was being manipulated by her brother and the brother's girlfriend and whatever the case is. So and then she ends up being kind of fine, and like everyone's just like, all right, I'm cool, I could be creative again, da da da, this and that. So it kind
Mm.
of like, it could have gone one way, but it didn't. Um, and maybe that's how this movie is. It could have gone one way, but it didn't. Because
Yeah.
there was just one thing missing.
I
Or
wonder
several
if,
things
to
missing.
some degree, if Margot Robbie's character is the avatar for which I can't wait to talk about Avatar another time. I'm mad I even used that word. I'm just seeing it in the papyrus font right now. Okay, distracted. I'm
Papyrus font.
imagining
That's the
if
best way.
I know. I'm imagining that Margot Robbie's character could be an avatar for David O. Russell as a director in some roundabout way. I hadn't thought
Mm,
about that before, but usually the creative character who's like, normally they're not movie directors, normally they're like writers or poets or something like that's
yeah.
this is the character I relate to, the creative one. it would kind of make sense if during this movie David O. Russell felt uninspired and unable to
Mm,
create and kind of forced it. As someone who is a creative and has like studied creatives, there are moments like that where they say, "Oh, this is the novel that they had to force out for whatever reason, and it
yeah.
wasn't the inspired one." I could kind of see that helping explain what's missing here, among maybe a couple other things that theories that
Mhm.
we've gone through already. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's now that we've talked it through, I can see that happening too. Especially like I don't know how long it took for him to make this movie. I would assume several years, and I'm sure with like COVID and all that stuff like that, it probably like put some struggles and challenges in making a movie like this. So maybe halfway through the process or some point during that whole process, you're right. Maybe he lost something. Maybe he kind of just like, I should just finish this movie because I've already started it, right? I'm under contract. But also, it makes me wonder. We're seeing a lot of this happening lately, where they're giving a huge budgets to these like indie
Hmm.
type directors. White Noise, which you're gonna see when it comes out. No, that's like Noah Baumbach's most ambitious movie, with
Hmm.
the type of budget that they gave him.
Hmm.
Robert Eggers with The Northman, they gave him this huge budget, and it granted the movie was still pretty good for us, but maybe may not have landed for a lot of people. Like, so at one point, or I should say, at which point should we continue that trend, or should we just keep them to a comfortable space where they can really focus more into creativity and not worry so much about the spectacle of, oh, I have all this extra money now, I can whip out my inner George Lucas and here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're given big budget and they miss by a little bit, it becomes like a home run swing, but it's a whiff, and it can fall flatter and feel kind of
Hmm.
worse. Because, like I said, I went in, my expectations were kind of normal because I'd already heard reviews coming in,
Okay.
but seeing a lot of my favorite, like there are people who are mad about this movie and saying, "How do you get this many stars to make a flop? That shouldn't be possible." And based on all metrics of audience reviews, critics reviews, etc., it seems like
Mm,
it's flopping pretty hard.
yeah.
These are probably two of the most generous reviews you'll hear anywhere for this movie,
Yeah.
and that's pretty sad. We're not head over heels in love with it.
No.
Um, because I know we're about to move on Triangle of Sadness. The only two like little bullet points I want to hit
Sure.
is there's another aspect of it that's based on history, which is I know you said it's that setting of there's the 30s, the 1930s piece. They do flashbacks to World War One. So
Yes.
first off, as far as the history, there's also on top of the political conspiracy, that group of soldiers, the 369th Infantry Regiment, was a real all black unit of the. I'm reading off Wikipedia here, but a real life all black unit of the segregated army that served under mainly white officers, nicknamed the Harlem Hellfighters. That I'm mentioning because how does one say I enjoy World War One without sounding like a sicko? I am drawn to World War One history. Hardcore History had an incredible podcast. It was like 23 hours of it. And I got really fascinated. There's not many movies that do World War One. There are
Right.
a lot of World War Two movies, which makes
So
sense.
many. So many.
The World War One movies, there's been a small kick recently for whatever reason. We were at the 100th anniversary of when it ended in 1918 of the armistice, and like there was 1917. Peter Jackson did the documentary "They Shall Not Grow Old." There's been a couple others recently, a little lower profile. But overall, I'm always, how do you say, I am happy to see a war scene. I enjoy when World War One gets some due that it
Mhm.
feels like, and my understanding is like it's so horrific, and some of the stories from there are so nightmarish. It's really hard to show on a screen and keep people eating popcorn.
Right.
And people are stuck in trenches. I can see reasons why, but it was really nice to see that infantry unit particularly given some credit on screen,
Mhm.
um, and getting to see John David Washington and Chris Rock, while not starring roles, especially not Chris Rock's. That was really nice to see.
Yeah.
Love John David Washington getting as many credits as we can give him at this point in his
My
career.
gosh, it's crazy. Yeah.
There's something weird where he basically goes from Tenet to Malcolm and Marie. There's a couple. What?
No, no, like it's just like how
Yeah,
like all of a sudden now he's like almost everywhere at this point.
but also when's is Tenet the only hit? There was Black Klansman. Was it called?
Yeah, Black Klansman. That
That's
was
his.
like
I think
that's
that might
his
even. Yeah,
first.
that's actually his proper breakout. You're right.
Yeah.
Not Tenet. And he was in Malcolm X in 1992, which
Oh,
was
that's
his
right.
father's movie.
That's
I don't
right.
even.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he played a child
Yeah.
of Malcolm. I mean, I'm not sure. Um, Malcolm X, huge hit. Black Klansman, huge hit. Tenet, hit by Christopher Nolan standards. Some people didn't like it. Hit, right? After that, we're talking Malcolm and Marie. We're talking a couple other ones that are just. I hope I hope he makes a few good decisions in the near future, or
Hmm.
gets a new agent or something, because I would love to see that man in Oscar conversations in future years and getting just all the Hollywood Walk of Fame stuff. I really do enjoy watching him act. I hope that this flop of Amsterdam doesn't portend worse things for his future. I hope that that changes soon, because it was a couple of few years ago. It was like, oh, this is the one we were promised kind of thing, and now
Yeah.
he's still this. Everyone says he's amazing in this movie or that movie, but that the movie overall doesn't work. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was going to point out is overall, what you were saying about this movie being a little glossed over or sugar coated. There's something like there's the weird madcap. It's like everything's through a brighter lens than it should have been, and a
Yes.
little less
Yes. Thank
dirty than
you.
it should have been.
Yes.
Like it's like you see, a vintage piece of silverware, and someone just polished it right before you walked in. They're
Yes.
like, "Look at this beautiful history." And you're like, that's probably been through some things.
Right.
That extra shine to me that feels flat when the seriousness of what you're talking about is so high. One thing that can affect that is the score, and we're
Mm.
talking. I'm just going off of like what I'm reading online. Hilda, mm, she did the Joker score, and I'm going to do my best.
Oh.
Hilda Guanadotir, something
Okay.
like that. I remember memorizing that when Joker was in Oscar convo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Hilda
Yeah.
was won the Oscar for best original score there. I could see, and she's done some like indie music projects in the past. I could see David O. Russell being, which now it's so strange. I'm wondering if there's maybe something else because it's not coming up on their. Yeah, it says crew members include score composer Hildur Guðnadóttir. But it's not coming up on their other filmography, so maybe something's missing. But I'm only saying that the same person did the music for Tar,
Oh.
and that does that make yeah. So I one of the reasons I'm hyped to see Tar and a movie about a composer.
Mm-hmm.
Who you get for that composer is very important. And getting the most prominent in my mind female composer won the Oscar a couple years
Yeah.
ago at least. That's cool. So I was thinking, I was that New York Film Festival, Triangle of Sadness, all that. There's, yeah.
No,
I
it's interesting that you bring that up too, because like when you watch Tar, the one of the most important things about that movie is sound design. You'll figure that out, and the soundtrack, because it really plays along nicely with that flow of that movie and the story that they're telling. In this particular movie, if it is the same person, it did make it feel a little bit like
sorry,
more.
this is
No, go
interesting.
ahead.
I have to interrupt just
Yeah.
because it's not
Okay.
the what I was reading. It goes on. In August, it was revealed that Guanadotir exited as composer with Daniel Pemberton now
Ah.
composing the
Okay.
film. Kind of makes more sense now.
Okay.
And especially it was I'm trying to remember, but it's essentially like it feels pluckier and kind of
Yeah.
like comedy
Like
score, but
haha. Duh, duh. Yeah. Like.
dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun, like just that feel.
Right.
Um, I I did. There was a couple moments I saved him on Shazam, especially at the end. Which, okay, I'm glad we brought this up.
Yeah.
Drake helped produce this
Yes.
movie.
Yes, I know. I'm glad you brought that up because I remember seeing that in the credits. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, what? So what all I know, and this is my little theory, which maybe someone hit it in the comments if you have a fact that disproves this immediately. My baby theory is Drake produces this movie. Drake I know for a fact on the credits is listed as a songwriter for the
Mhm.
ending credits song sung by Giveon, and it's basically taking the score and then putting Giveon's R&B soulful vocals on top of it. But
Mhm.
Drake is listed as a songwriter. Is this just Drake investing money in an EGOT possibility? As a
Oh,
songwriter for the original song in the movie. Now, maybe it's not an original song or it doesn't count because of whatever reason. I don't know. But it's using the score from the movie. I believe it's a new song. Drake's a producer. But I could also see Drake not wanting to put, too much risk on it or doing, he's done songs for at least the LeBron James documentary, right? Like I
yeah,
could
yeah,
see
yeah.
him being like, well, I've got too many millions. Let me just do a quick investment on my legacy because what else am I doing with it? Maybe that'll pay me back. I'll get more money from that, and maybe I'll
Right.
get the Oscar. That's this is clever. So I was curious about that because I was shocked to see his name, and I started to put it together like maybe he's doing a low key play. I don't know. It's
Could
interesting.
be. I mean, he wants to solidify his name and his career so that he could attend more basketball games because that's really what he wants to do, right?
That's everyone's goal in life is to eventually
Yeah.
be successful enough to that you can attend basketball games wearing the Tracy Morgan from 30 Rock EGOT necklace,
Exactly. Exactly.
buying it from which I'm only saying that because I saw Tracy Morgan at a Knicks game a few days ago. He was not wearing the necklace, unfortunately, but
Oh, okay.
that's my little conspiracy
Um,
theory about this movie. About
hey,
conspiracy theories.
I like it. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we close things out, also going back on the whole World War I thing, you're right. I remember when Peter Jackson put out that documentary, which was beautifully done. I actually liked it a lot. And then 1917. 1917, in most recent memory, is like one of the few that really focuses on World War I. That was the Sam Mendes movie, which was like the one shot movie that the whole movie was like one take, or it looks like one shot, which I really enjoyed. But that's more of like an action based, movie, and all that. So
The war
when
is more
if
just the setting for it, unlike
right,
Wonder Woman, which is a true World War One movie,
one
where
hundred
there's a moment
percent.
where she jumps over some trenches in World
Oh
War
yeah,
One.
yeah, No Man's
Another one
Land. Oh
recently
yeah,
is yeah. Um, another one is Peaky Blinders has been one of the more recent
oh
things that
right,
really got it in the public
yeah,
consciousness
hmm
because that is huge and informs a lot of that. The only other one I'm throwing out there is Stanley Kubrick's got one, Paths of Glory. So that's one of the hardest hitting Kirk
sure.
Douglas movies. It's early Stanley Kubrick. So,
hmm
but yeah, what were you saying about that recent like?
No, like to
I,
just to go along with your point that the fact that World War I is the primary setting of this movie, Amsterdam, um, it really
it's the
treated it
setting of the
more,
flashbacks
yeah,
and where the three characters meet, but then the rest of it's set what about 15 years in the future, something like that.
something
Yeah,
like that. But again, it goes over the after effects of that war, right? That's why you have
yeah.
Christian Bale's character, who is the doctor, who's trying to help a lot of these veterans from that war and all that.
The
And I
whole
felt like,
event,
yeah,
the denouement of the movie is a World War One veterans gala. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So you would think that there would have been a little bit more seriousness to it. Now, and that, don't get me
yeah,
wrong. Like when you have Christian Bale like talking to these vets, especially at his office, helping them out with their prosthetics and all that stuff like that. That's some serious stuff. But it was treated with with a smile,
you're
like
so
a
right.
smirk. You know?
You're so right. Like the dialogue is serious, and David O. Russell,
Yeah.
to my mind, is good at that and
Yeah.
portraying that. It's like the camera work was funny or something.
Right.
What is wrong with this?
It's
If you have any theories, let us know what's wrong with this movie.
Please
I'm
do.
still not sure.
Please,
Yeah,
please do, because it is so, again, it's interesting that with this director, with this cast, with this
yeah.
the subject matter, we should have been talking more highly about it than we are right now, and we're not. Because like the common theme here is that there's just something missing or there's something off. If you know what it is, let us know. If you have
Please,
your own theories, please let
please,
us know because it is kind of off-putting in a way, and it's just weird. It's just weird overall, and doesn't bode well for the movie as a whole because I'm looking at the box office tallies as of right now. We are recording this on a Sunday. Not looking good when you have. an $80 million movie
Mm.
coming in third, making only 6.5 million.
That's gonna be an uphill battle.
That
Shoot.
hurts. That is going to be painful, and I'm sure they're feeling all of that right now. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. Again, I think the big question is, if you're watching this, you
Mm,
may have already seen it. What were
mm,
your thoughts on the movie? Are
yeah.
you feeling like us, like kind of like in the middle, or just trying to figure it out? Let us know. Or if you haven't seen this movie, are you at all planning to see it in the theater? Or are you going to wait for streaming and all that kind of stuff like that? Let us know in the comments, because that'll be really interesting to kind of gauge what that feeling is and all that, because that will say a lot about what the audience expectations are for a movie like this. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but before we continue, I wanted to quickly talk about Bulletproof Coffee. Bulletproof Coffee is my favorite coffee of choice to start off my mornings with. Why? Because it's clean coffee. What does that mean? Well, one, there are no chemicals in it. Why? Because they go through this multi-step process of making sure that all of their beans are fully clean and free of any chemicals, so that when you get the beans delivered to you, it is the pure beans, the pure coffee, the goodness that you've been wanting, the taste, the flavor, and the nutritional value as well, without worrying about any added chemicals or anything else put into the mix there. It also doesn't have that weird acidic taste that some coffees give you. I don't know how about you, but for me, some coffees kind of give me that weird sensation in my stomach, makes me a little burpy, and it kind of drags me down a little bit instead of really waking me up, which is something that I need from my coffee every day. Bulletproof also offers a lot of keto-friendly snacks and supplements, anything that you need to kind of add to your everyday nutritional needs, add to your diet, pretty much transforms the way you feel every day. So for a limited time, if you use this code that you see on the screen right now, LOWKEY GEEK, all caps, one word, you can get 15% off your order. So what is it better than that, right? Check out the link in the description of this episode. Use this code, get yourself your discount, and make your mornings a little bit more bulletproof with Bulletproof Coffee. Now, back to the episode. So as we move on from one happy-go-lucky movie to a triangle of sadness, um I kind of like that transition. I kind of did
No, that
that.
was fantastic. Yeah, there's something backwards about these two movies where one is about horrible things happening and it's a comedy, and this other one is about
Right.
horrible things happening, but it's serious, but it feels like a bravo.
Yeah, it's this is an interesting movie. And I had a chance to see this during the first week of New York Film Festival earlier this week. So it was a packed house, because this has been a talked about movie ever since it won the Palme d'Or award at Cannes Film Festival. Um, and I was so looking forward to not only experiencing it myself, but seeing the audience reaction because of what I've heard of the movie. And I think this is one of those movies where you do have to talk. We have to talk about the theater experience, because and I'll let you start first before I go into what I experienced. But it is definitely one of those movies where you're gonna get so many different types of reactions. I'll preface it by saying this: when it was being introduced before the movie started, the presenter was even saying, I don't want to say much about this movie because it is one of those movies where you have to experience it yourself. Because I want all of you to have a genuine reaction to it. And boy, did we ever get one. So, Blake, I know you had a chance to see this movie last night. So let me know what were your thoughts and what was your experience like in the theater for this?
Just on some big picture stuff, the reviews are way better for Triangle of Sadness than Amsterdam.
Oh
If
yeah,
you if
yeah,
you want to have a more inspired film conversation, enjoy that. Stick around for this one because this was an
yes.
interesting, fascinating movie that I am still fascinated by, and I'm excited to talk to you because I haven't worked it out in my head, like
Hmm.
how I feel about it and what's good. I can give you like my initial thoughts at the theater. I was laughing or nervous laughing
Yes.
very loudly most of the time. I'm gonna give a little more context. I had just seen Licky Lee perform at the Apollo Theater. Devastating, heartbreaking music, and just like the heartbreak and the aching, and listening to this woman sing these beautiful, profound heartbreak songs. And then I go see Triangle of Sadness, and was not ready for that transition apparently because I nervous laughed many times, and there are times where I properly just like that was a great joke, hilarious.
Yeah.
I heard only one or two other people laughing only a couple other times.
Oh no.
This is at actually same theater. I think it's same. Oh, different theater than I saw Amsterdam, but similar concept, like an AMC, but it's a little further out of the way. This was the late showing, and it was fuller than Amsterdam, which says a lot.
Mm.
A lot of people who it seems like these are film buffs who like this director. They hear that it wins the Palme d'Or, and they say, "I'm going to go show up for that movie. I
Yeah.
like this director, whatever." But it felt like a more informed audience. Whereas Amsterdam, maybe you get some accidental people being like, "Oh, is that funny? It's got Margot Robbie. I'll go see it. Whatever."
Right.
This one, there's a little bit higher bar of entry, which is usually portends good things for the audience. When you have people who want to be there for what the movie is probably going to be, you usually have better reactions. My understanding is that this has gotten a lot of reactions from people and mostly positive.
Hmm.
This theater seemed kind of pissy
Wow,
and kind
really?
of pissed at me for being a loud laugher. That's just like the feeling I got. But when you
Wow.
laugh way too loud and then there's people around you who are dead quiet, you can already be like, okay, did I just ruin everyone's night? Like, am I making it harder for them to laugh by they're uncomfortable and now this
Uh-huh.
asshole is laughing a couple rows in front of me? I don't know. I had a great time at this
Oh.
movie, feeling all types of great things and sometimes some of the weirdest, grossest feelings I've had in a theater.
Hmm.
Normally, with a movie like this, there's enough comedy and they give you a softer landing, like, oh, this is the comic relief. This, there was comedy and the relief was tragedy.
Right.
And there's things that like, oh, this is horrible. This person is being treated like garbage, or this person is going through, I'm thinking, I don't even know how to describe it. The young male model in the lifeboat thing. And I'm watching
Hmm.
and I'm doing nervous laughter for some of those. And every now and then there's a joke where I do a laugh. It is properly uncomfortable of a
Yeah.
movie, but I personally, as someone who enjoys that, like discomfort, like Uncut Gems is one of my favorite movies of all time for a reason. This movie hit me in whatever zone I was in to
Hmm.
where I felt it pretty strongly. If this is your bag, I think you'll have a good time. At the very least, go check it out and like experience something at the movies. Whereas some of these other movies we talked about recently, there's some like meh or like Amsterdam. We're like, yeah, it's a little soft. Like, no, this one was just like a slap across the face at the
Yeah.
worst, and sometimes it was a joyride. I will also couch it with I identify as at least a democratic socialist, and sometimes I feel a little more further than that. In an Amsterdam review, I talked about being anti-fascism, which is just what a wild thing to say in 2022. For this movie, there was a few moments where I had a great time.
Uh.
And then you're watching, okay, what happens when we Lord of the Flies this thing, put
Oh
them
yeah.
in the state of nature, and see how people who there was a debate in the middle of the movie between a capitalist and a communist, a Marxist, sorry, Woody Harrelson. And now we're watching them play out some of these ideals, and it got at times beautiful and utopian, and at times pretty gross.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at there for now. I'm sure we can get into some like little theories or our favorite things about it, but I want to hear. I don't know how I feel fully. What did you think, man?
My gosh. This is probably the most outrageous movie of the year. But for me in a good way. I it's been a long time since I laughed this much in a movie, but very much similar to you, where my laughter was either full-blown laughter because something was so funny or outrageously funny, or oh my god, what are they doing now? Yeah. It's just like, especially like during the
What's that?
tragic moments too, because you're right. This had a lot of balance between comedic moments and then followed up by tragedy. But the tragedy could also be seen as comedic depending on how you look at it or which lens you're looking at
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
One great example to me was, you have all these rich people on the yacht going through like their worst time ever, right? And they're just like, recovering. And then they do an outside shot and you see a pirate ship coming in about to like like board the yacht, and during that moment I'm like, all right, I'm already laughing so much about all of the stuff that they went through during their like most awful night, and now this is gonna happen. What's this about, so I'm like nervously laughing because I'm just like anticipating like the worst, right? And it's just and again, if we haven't said so already, spoiler alert, we're gonna just mention some stuff about this movie because we can't talk about this movie
There's
and have
no
a
way.
discussion
I need
without.
to. I
Yeah,
have to.
yeah,
I'm
and
compelled. There was a flood of shit water
yes,
drowning rich people, and they are going through health crisis after health crisis.
right,
It was amazing to watch. I know I
yeah,
probably shouldn't say that.
no, no, it's
I don't wish ill on anyone who exploits the poor whatsoever. I want everyone to do great.
but,
And if
but
it comes at their expense, it's kind of funny. So
right.
that's all I'm saying.
But one of the best parts, especially during that moment, was you have again the capitalist and the Marxist goading these people on the intercom. You have
Yo. There's a few years ago where there was a popular news story, and every time it happened, it would hit the news. It was like there was piracy on cruise ships,
yes,
and then there was the ones where there was some health issue.
yeah, like
One time it was a
salmonella
stomach
breakout
bug,
or whatever. Yeah,
and then early days, spring, summer 2020, it was the horror stories of people who were stuck on a boat, and we didn't know pandemic situation at that
right,
time, and
right.
then they're stuck on a boat of sickness. Brilliant setting for a movie that's going to
Oh
comment on
yeah.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
How have we not had more movies that are it could be a horror movie, it could be a comedy, it could be social commentary, it could be a family drama.
Yeah,
I need more movies. Like there's submarine movies and war movies. That's as close as I'm thinking. Like there's some
yeah.
really good ones in that world. Otherwise, like we need more cruise movies. What Meryl Streep had one a year ago where she's the author on a boat.
Oh right,
Anyway,
right, right. Yeah,
it is a good setting for that. But the sick cruise on the luxury yacht concept, brilliant way to flesh out some of uh, these concepts and uh,
it's just like, especially the way they tie in the social commentary too. Like it's like, not, if you've been to a resort or if you've been on a cruise, you'll see these pockets of people that
mhm.
are different aspects of society. And but when you focus and concentrate on one society, one aspect of society, especially the uber rich, right? The ones that
Mhm.
feel like they can get away with anything, and put them through these disasters and tragic events, and just to see how they act to it, there's just something so brilliantly comforting about it. And I don't know how to describe it. It's just and you just see how the realness of them, how it really comes out, what they find most important, what they find that they are entitled to. The entitlement is just through the roof and everything. But before we jump more into that, let me talk about my theater experience, because again, I saw this as a screening at New York Film Festival. So obviously everyone
Mm,
there is like a film buff,
yep.
a cinemaphile, all that kind of stuff, right? And you could tell, I could already sense there was this energy in the audience because everyone is gearing up. They are anticipating this movie. They can't wait, because
Uh,
they know, and they, oh, go ahead.
no, sorry. I definitely want to hear this. Sorry for interrupting. I haven't been to New York Film Festival. I'm
Hmm.
curious how many of the people there felt like maybe these are uber rich patron donors people. And one question I had was like, we'll see how this movie plays out over time, where as it trickles down to more audiences that aren't film buffs or
Yeah,
I'm curious how middle America Tuesday evening show goes for
sure.
this movie. I don't know how long its legs are, so to speak. I'm also was thinking during it of if I was a super rich person, I think I would love this movie because it's like a comedy roast
Right.
of these
Yeah,
folks,
yeah,
and they get to see, oh, this is what the poor people are saying about me. This is so funny, and
yeah.
I'm still comfortable and have all that privilege, insulating me from it. I could see someone enjoying it even so. But anyway, I'm curious, like. Can you describe the audience a little more?
Sure.
And when you're talking about, because I'm fascinated by your audience reaction compared to mine.
Sure, yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, New York Film Festival is usually taking place at Lincoln Center every year around this time. Now, the one thing that they did interesting this year, which they've done before but not to this scale, is that they're expanding their screenings to the other boroughs of New York. So, Brooklyn, Queens, even Staten Island. You could see special screenings for New York Film Festival in those areas. So, with this particular screening, I was able to see it in Queens, where I live, at the Museum of Moving Image.
Ooh,
So,
nice.
I feel like that is a prime audience setting for a movie like this because you're not going to get the uppity, high donating donors at Lincoln Center who probably live a couple blocks away from there, right? You're going to get like a good mix of people who are one, yes, you will still
Yeah.
get those donators, but you'll get film students.
Right.
I think some critics were there from what I've heard. And of course the patrons of Museum of Moving Image were there. It's connected to Kaufman Studios, where they film a lot of TV stuff and movie stuff. So I'm sure people from those walks of life are attending it as well. So it was a good mix and blend of all these different types of people, and I think that's one of the reasons why you had that energy, that the energy and the atmosphere anticipating for this movie, because everyone who was there was well aware that this movie won the Palme d'Or. Everyone is well aware that this has
Okay.
been like hitting the festival circuit big time, right? So throughout the movie, my laughter was joined with
Hmm.
many of the other laughters that were in the audience. It was like a good mix of all of us laughing at the same time, whether it was funny or uncomfortable or nervous laughter. We all shared that same experience. I was sitting next to this one lady where during the most horrific parts of the movie, the vomiting, the shit spewing out of all the toilets
Hmm.
and all that, she was like in agony. She was just like, oh no, oh that's gross. But then at the same time, like 2 minutes later, she's laughing and everything like that.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I think my theater experience was a lot more akin to me. We all enjoyed this movie at the same time for all the same reasons. Um, the movie is also kind of long for a movie like this. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I do feel like maybe a lot of people got worn out towards the end of the movie after all the laughing, all the,
Yeah.
like, because it does kind
It
of,
was longish too. Yeah.
yeah, it gets to a point where like, okay, we kind of get the whole thing. Let's just end this movie now. And I felt like there were many moments they could have just ended the movie, but they kind of just kept
Hmm.
going and going, especially when
Hmm.
they found themselves on the island. Um, which ended up being a resort, which is like the most like crazy shit ever.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but after the movie ended, you had crowds of people outside still talking about it, and talking a lot of like positive stuff about it. So I think of the majority of the people that I saw the movie with really loved the movie and really, really enjoyed it. This again, we were there expecting to enjoy this movie, and we did. Now, to go to your point as to how this movie have legs, or how it will resonate with like people in the Midwest or other parts of the country, I don't think it's going to get that same type of reception. It's it's kind of hard when it comes to movies like this because word of mouth is going to be very important. I think word of mouth is going
Yep.
to really help spread this. And I don't think people will go out to the movie theater to pay the ticket price to go watch a movie like this. I feel like this movie will get its legs once it hits a streaming service. Like if it hits a Netflix, if it hits a Hulu, then that's when you're going to get more people really, really wanting to see this movie and being open to watch this movie. And then you'll start seeing more of the word of mouth on social media and all that stuff about a movie like this. Um, because like it's a movie that can appeal to many different types of people because it does kind of switch genres in a way. Like in the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie, it felt like one of your typical romance, drama comedy, especially since it focuses on the one model and the influencer and their very uncomfortable dinner setting, who's going to pay the bill and all that kind of stuff, which resonates with a lot of us. I think we've all had that kind of uncomfortable conversation at one point or another with a date. or someone that we've been dating or seeing for a while. And then it switches to this like really um kind of slap on the face of like the rich and everything, with like exposing all these different people from all their different like lines of work, and how the one lady who wants everyone to take a swim or jump into the ocean is like, I'm rich, I can say whatever you want, so you're swimming, in fact, let's close the whole
Whoa.
boat and everyone's gonna swim. you know like it's just it's so fascinating. And then at the end, like you said, and I've said this in my review too, it becomes Lord of the Flies, where now the tides have turned, and the rich, who are so used of telling people what to do, are now the ones being told what to do, because the person who was looked upon as the help is now running things. And I love the fact that this
Gosh,
actress
so what
is,
a turn.
like
Mm.
Dolly De Leon is so good in this role, and how she was so fierce. And the moment she's like, no, we're not on the yacht. So on this island, I'm the captain. And then
Hmm.
she's like, and then she goes to each person there. Is like, who am I? He's like, you're the captain. Like,
The
okay,
captain,
now you get food. Yeah. It's just brilliant,
amazing. If you
brilliant.
just want some like socialism porn or whatever, like there's a
Yeah.
few moments in this movie that'll just next time you're stressing the man, just
Hmm.
pull this movie up and we'll play that clip or
Oh
any of
yeah.
it, the shit storm or oh my gosh, there were some things where it felt so lovely to watch.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, bless that one. Some people are talking about supporting actress stuff for this movie.
I could see like for
I'd
example,
be
like
surprised if it didn't
Minari.
happen now. Yep.
Yeah, like we had
Oh,
that actress from Minari who won supporting actress. I won't be surprised if Dolly De Leon is looked upon during this award season for the same scenario.
for sure. Yeah, the recent one, like it's often like a fifth person and they replace whoever. Keira
Yeah.
Knightley's lesser role or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's common to actually see nowadays, I think. Similar like how in our director category we can expect to see maybe one or two international
Hmm.
directors. There was Roma a few years ago is one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And then definitely Minari was a huge one. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'll put my prediction down during spooky season.
There you go.
Uh, I think she gets a nomination for this one. We'll see how it plays out. And I also
Hmm.
am curious the reception of this movie over time. Sometimes a movie like this, it plays for a few weeks in the coasts and then it just kind of disappears and you don't really
Yeah.
hear much from it. Palme d'Or winner has an American Woody Harrelson in the trailer prominently. Has it seems like it has some legs, and even the dude's last direct movie, I think it's nominated for international film, The
I think it
Square,
was. The
which
square
I
was.
really love.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I would be surprised, and also once someone gets some recognition from the Oscars, now it's in their rear view mirror, so they're more likely to notice it and go, oh, let me mark that
Yeah.
one down. I'm gonna go and say I think I know I feel confident that she'll deserve one once we see the nominee shake out. I'd be surprised if she doesn't get it at this point.
Yeah. Like it would be like the two people I would consider in the conversation for a movie like this is definitely her for sure. But then the guy who played the Russian entrepreneur,
Fascinating. Yeah.
the guy who sells shit. He always said like, I sell shit. And then he's the one who goes on the intercom and says,
Oh
the boat is sinking. The boat is sinking.
gosh, dude. Okay. It's obviously tragedy and there are human lives at stake in the stories of the cruise ship where it's sick, but it's like late night comedy fodder.
Right.
Those stories were used repeatedly for jokes by like the Jimmy Kimmels of the world.
Hmm.
The moment where they get food poisoning, which to my mind, for a second I thought, did they get poisoned? I think they wanted to leave that vague. But to my mind, the chef says, oh, the rich person wants the staff to go swimming for their entertainment.
The food's gonna go
Okay,
bad.
the
Yeah.
food's going to go bad. The
Yeah.
food goes bad. They all get food poisoning, or at least most of them do. They get so sick that it's a hilariously nightmarish scene at the dining room where just sick. It's like the bridesmaid scene in the street. But this one
Hmm.
goes on, like you were saying earlier, this one does go on for a long
It
time.
does.
I
It
kind of
does.
wondered in
Yeah.
the editing room if they thought it would be okay, like the bridesmaid one, or we see it in movies sometimes, they just keep pushing it and people just keep laughing. That isn't what happened in my theater at all. And there's something really weird about like nausea comedy,
Mm-hmm.
where this really gross thing is happening, and so like I'm disgusted by what I'm seeing, but it's kind of funny or it's played as comedy. There's something that can be off-putting about that. But yeah, they I just wanted to play out the events. Staff goes swimming for their entertainment. Food's gonna go bad. Food goes bad. Nightmare scene. Everyone being sick on each other and the staff and everything.
Right. Also,
Clogging
like
toilets, flooding.
also
Yeah.
on top of that, leading to that point too, you have the drunk captain who really doesn't care about meeting any of these people, prolonging the
Nope.
captain's dinner to
Yes,
the
that's
worst
right.
night to do it, where there was supposed to be a pending storm. So you
That's
have
right.
that's why
Because
the
of a
ship, yeah,
miscommunication, which is like a little statement on bureaucracy or something
right,
like that. She goes, Thursday we can't do. He goes, Thursday's good.
yeah,
No, not Thursday. When do you want to do it? Any day but Thursday. Okay, Thursday.
Thursday,
There's a
yeah,
storm on Thursday. All right, I'll see you there. And then this person who I'm gonna have harsher words for this person because they're kind of like in the intermediate between the poor and the rich.
yes,
The
yes,
bootlicking first, whatever the
yeah,
title is, where she's the one giving the staff instructions and giving the chant
mm-hmm,
money, money, like that
yep,
moment. That
mm-hmm,
person, no patience or tolerance for them.
oh yeah,
The rich person, at least like you go like, okay, I get it. You get the long end of the stick. This person's just a bootlicker.
yeah,
And this is the person who says, no problem. We'd love to make you happy. I'm here to say yes. I'm a yes person. Oh,
mm-hmm,
the food's going to go bad. I don't care. I have to make this person happy.
right,
Well, that person's really the impetus for everything that happens after that. So you go sickness, clogged toilets, flooding shit water throughout it. Some people getting so sick, I'm like, they're going to die. Then Captain and the Russian oligarch dude getting so drunk and they're on the intercom yelling socialist texts, reading out of the book, debating about socialism and Marxism versus capitalism. And they're so shit faced. And so, and they show the looks on the poor rich people's faces
oh my
where they're
god, they're
just
all
going through this
pale
nightmare
and they're just
and
like,
they're
yeah,
listening to this.
mm-hmm,
The needs of the people shall be satisfied, and just whatever the hell, Noam Chomsky and burping sounds, and just that is where conceptually it's brilliant. It's
yeah,
kind of hard to watch. It's kind of stomach
mm,
churning, but
yeah,
I loved it. And then I missed something because I was actually looking down at the moment when I hear a lot of laughter. The biggest laugh I heard from the audience, it has to be the pirate ship moment because I miss it.
okay,
At the end of this little saga,
mm-hmm,
there's must be a pirate ship. That's got to be what I missed because I look up. I'm
yeah,
like, wait, what? And then they're shipwrecked somehow on the island. What? Can you just like fill in that? How
yeah.
we go from that to now they're in the state of nature fighting for survival and kill like almost like eating each other for food. Not quite, but
Right. Yeah. So this is literally like the morning after, right? So everyone is still recovering from all the disasters that happened the night before. And you get this really funny scene. It's a outside shot of the boat. And you just see this little like pirate boat. You see these like two guys talking to each other in I don't know if it's Guyanese or whatever I don't know what language it is, but you could tell, okay, these are pirates. They got guns, right? And they're like approaching this yacht. So it's just in that again, like I said, it was one of those moments where I'm already like exhausted laughing from everything that transpired, and now I'm nervous laughing because I don't know what's coming next, but it can't be good. But I'm sure it's going to be funny. So in another brilliant writing moment, they cut back to the boat and you have the two old couple that they make their money off of military weapons and armory and all that. And then you just hear the clink, and you see a grenade roll next to them. And
oh,
and
I'm
the
so
old
mad I was looking
lady,
down for that.
the
Wow.
old lady picks up the grenade and it's like, "Oh, I think this is one of ours." And the guy's like, "Oh, yes, it is." And he's like, "Oh," and the minute they realize that they should throw this overboard, again back to the outside shot and you see the explosion. You just see,
Oh my gosh.
and then you hear grrr, grrr, and you hear me like, ah! Which then cuts and then that's what leads to the third act of the stranded
Wow.
on the deserted island, which ends up being a resort that they didn't know about.
I love this movie. I'm glad we're talking it through. I'm glad you filled me on that little thing I missed. I need to see this movie ASAP. I love it so much more now. With like, there's a few things,
Yeah.
and I'm sure on a rewatch, this is that kind of movie where you go, "Oh, I didn't realize this character was doing
Yes.
this thing at that time," and
Yeah.
this is a metaphor for
Mm-hmm.
the fast a class struggle. This is, I love this movie. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, the writing was just really smart, and it plays along really well with today's society, the views of society, especially when it comes to, influencers and the rich and how they like portray their lives, especially like on social media and everything like that. I think it was brilliant how in the beginning when they were having that fashion show and it was like words of like affirmation and encouragement. It was just like, oh,
that's one of the hardest. I laughed multiple
yeah,
times every time a new thing flashed. I laughed hard.
yeah,
And I have a little side theory I'll throw in now.
yeah,
You went to a theater with New York Film Festival people, so maybe there were some Richies there. I went to
sure.
like the richest area for AMC movie theater. There were some people who looked
Oh,
barely like they were wearing some
okay,
nice coats for
okay,
sure.
okay, okay.
And maybe like creative world fashion something, and like I don't know if they were in like if they got the joke and or if they were kind of mad about it or uncomfortable. Like, oh, right. I know it because East Coast Richies are hilarious because they know
Oh yeah.
the dynamic. Like they hear liberal conversation all the time, and then they have to like show up to events every now and then that have like the fashion. I can't remember right now, but the one that kept repeating of like cynicism masquerading as optimism.
Yes,
I
yes.
guffawed, and not one other person in that theater laughed, which made it even funnier for me because I get a little ornery in those settings. I
Oh
enjoyed
man,
it so much.
it was so good. It was so good. That scene, a lot of people in my audience were dying. They were laughing because again,
Okay.
it's so subtle, and if you're not paying attention, you could easily like gloss over it. But once you have like these words flashing on the big screen at the background, and then all of a sudden fashion, and everyone's just like woo, da, 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 and strutting their shit on the runway. It's just so hilarious. It's almost like one of those like crazy absurd Zoolander moments, but in more realistic settings.
The there's something about the movie that's it's like a lot of criticism where they're making fun of these folks, and one question I do have about the movie is how legitimate and genuine is this? Sometimes it's satirical or
Hmm.
it's critical. The last movie, The Square, was essentially a send up of the art world
Yeah.
and that society. This one is going to be more influencer, Richie's, class struggle stuff.
Hmm.
The early on when the couple they're doing some jokes and they're spelling them out pretty hard of, oh, this is an influencer, and aren't influencers just so dumb they don't even eat the food they take pictures of or whatever. And
Hmm.
like Zoolander, right, is going to be it's doing it knowingly, but it's like a dumb joke about
Right.
a dumb male model.
Right.
I don't know to what degree the criticism here is necessary, but then same podcast I was talking about earlier, they were pointing out in this movie it's made by an international director and
Hmm.
produced. So maybe, depending on the audience, that would get more play if
Hmm.
there's less awareness of what this person who's an influencer and Instagram culture and whatever. Like, and if someone's going into a movie and, let's say you're 19, you just took a history class in high school, you might not understand like the Russian oligarch concept.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe. So I think they maybe did a little spelling out, and sometimes it was the jokes were a little easy, but I still feel like overall it was smart. The setting, the way they put these characters together,
Hmm.
the things they put the character through. And then the only weird, I think one of the things that'll be harder for this movie to gain traction through word of mouth is that ending, which I think
Ah,
we're ready to
yes. We
talk
should we
about.
should talk about that. Yeah,
It
but
gets
before we
more
do,
uncomfortable. Okay, yeah, no,
yeah,
please,
before we
please.
we do, I do want to touch base on the whole influencer thing too, because another smart joke that they did, which was kind of subtle in a way, and I think some of the audience I was with got it, some probably they missed it. was the part when they were at the dinner. This not the
Yes.
main dinner, but another dinner.
Yep.
And this is the setting where everyone's basically meeting each other for the very first time. And you got the model couple, the model and influencer couple sitting on the same table with the shit dealer, with the shit seller and all that. And the boyfriend who's the model is obviously the person that we see all the time these days, is taking all the Instagram shots of his girlfriend, and she is posing with a bowl of pasta, right? And he's taking like multiple pictures, and we've seen him do this already many times, right?
Yeah.
And then you hear a comment on the side from the Russian guy. He's like, "Are you gonna eat the pasta?" And they're like, "What?" And like, "Are you gonna eat the pasta?" And then she's like, "No, I'm." What did she say? Like, I'm gluten intolerant or something like
Yeah,
that. Like, it's like
something. Yeah.
some excuse. So she wasn't even planning to eat the food. She's just
Right.
posing with the food, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't stop laughing at that because that speaks a lot to what's happening now.
There are things like that where it's a little, to me, that joke is a little obvious, and
Yeah.
maybe because my audience wasn't laughing the same way, but like I could see anybody giving like, oh, influencers are so dumb. The millennials,
Right.
they don't even eat their food or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's something metaphorical happening too, because that, and then also yeah, there's another dinner scene, which we can get to like the importance of food at
Oh
the
yeah.
end. But there's Triangle of Sadness is a phrase that's used early on about the male model and how he needs to relax his triangle of sadness.
Yep.
And there's also three parts of the story. The first is this couple, model
Yep.
and influencer. The second one is on the boat and all these rich people and their interactions with themselves and the staff. And then thirdly, it's the state of nature. So it actually hits on, it's been a while since I took a lit class, but you're essentially looking at the personal, the societal, and nature.
Yeah.
Um, in the first one, it's a couple arguing about paying a bill for dinner, and there's gender equality brought up,
Yep.
there's class struggle brought up, and at some point the character asks what's essentially could be like a thesis of the movie. Why is it so awkward to talk about money?
Right.
And his theory is that it's gender roles, and I think I'm race is definitely brought up in the movie, but there's definitely some people who say, okay, gender and race are one thing, but then class struggle is the real struggle, and that's what causes these other ones.
Yeah.
We're not the episode that's going to get into that. But there is something interesting where early on in the movie, he brings up that theory, and then we take it further than
Yeah.
just, oh, it's awkward because you're a woman who makes more money than me, and you said you would pay for dinner. I was laughing so hard at those tense moments. It was that
Mm-hmm.
uncut gems kind of laugh. Nobody else is laughing, but I've had those conversations in some of those moments before, and that awkward. It's an old Seinfeld joke. They
Yeah.
didn't reach for the bill. They didn't even reach for their wallet. Like that's just standard comedy in my mind. But now we're adding this very political layer to it. Turns out the couple has an argument, a fight that kind of gets uncomfortable with the man keep opening the doors to the elevator. It was
Yep.
kind of comical and kind of
Mm-hmm.
very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, you have the comedy and the discomfort, but there's a political message underneath all of it. And we're seeing it play out. And I think what was the smartest thing about this movie is that he's not hitting you over the head with these things. He's telling
Yeah.
stories of people that feel real enough, and I'm bought into it. And their dialogue, there's a couple characters that have a straight up dialogue of capitalism versus Marxism, but even that becomes metaphorical when they're doing it on the intercom and
Yeah.
torturing other people and they're drunk during it or whatever. You could add like layers of that metaphor to it, but a lot of it isn't proper debate the way that the couple debated or they debated. And there's ones like around the campfire at the end in the state of nature where they're saying like,
Mm-hmm.
how should we punish people? Who deserves the food? The person who makes it, the person who catches it, whatever.
Right.
There are those debates happening during it, but I think my favorite part of the movie is the other things that are happening around that and contextualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of movie why I'm glad we're talking it through. It's the kind of movie that actually has a longer aftertaste than the
Oh yeah.
actual story and the dialogue that's happening in the moment. I think I'm gonna rewatch it ASAP just because it'll get richer with seeing some of the not
Haha.
just
Richer.
this is what's happening in this moment. um, not just this is what's happening in this moment and I'm trying to pay attention to it all, but oh, there are layers to this for sure.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you said that too, because in my review, in my on the channel, I do bring up the whole triangle of sadness meaning too. You know, like what was described to the audience as what it means in the fashion world. But when you
Mhm.
look at it in the lens of the movie, it pretty much describes the three arcs of the movie. The first, the middle, and the end, and how the culmination of it all is pretty sad for not only a lot of the people there, but for us as an audience member watching, and the realization of a lot of this is happening in society these days too. So it's sad to see it portrayed in this way, even though we're laughing a lot about it and all that, right? But with that being said, one of the I don't know if I would call it uncomfortable, but the ending, and like how
We
does
gotta talk about
one
it.
really interpret the ending of this movie, because it again, it might speak about how you feel about things, right? Or how
Mhm.
you view society and all that. So
Yeah.
basically, and again, we've already mentioned spoilers and all that kind of stuff like that. Again, we cannot talk about this movie without talking about the movie. So they're on this island. The brilliant Abigail that we mentioned, who is now the captain of the island, manipulates her way and her power because now she's the hunter. Now she's the one, that provider for all these people who don't know how to do any of that stuff. So, she takes a liking to the model who survived, who is still with the influencer, who's still on the island with them. Decides to pretty much bait him into being her, lover, because she provides him with food. So it's transactional, which was again mentioned in the beginning with the couple, because in a way their relationship was very transactional too, because one is an influencer,
Mm.
the other one's a model, all that kind of stuff. So it comes full circle,
Thank
right?
you so much for making that
You're
connection. It
welcome.
was right
You're
there.
welcome.
They
Yep.
literally say the words like, "Oh, I'm getting something out of this, you're getting something out of this.
Exactly.
What's the big deal?" And he's like, "No, but I think I love you and I want a baby someday." She's like, "Huh, okay." He goes, "All right, I'll work it out and I'll show you that I love you. Well, time will tell."
Right.
Oh, there's
It's
the message there, the cynicism masquerading as optimism there is
yeah.
real. I need to watch this again. Damn. There's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of things like that that are more meta than I'd first realized, or the movie's actually not saying the message that the characters are saying that you think it might be saying, that it's actually
Mhm.
saying something even more nihilistic or cynical. I was thinking about the the one where if you think this is a socialist movie, keep in mind that there's a drunken captain of a
Yes.
luxury yacht debating with a Russian oligarch, and he's the voice of communism, and he's torturing people with this debate. And there could be a metaphor there for like, oh, if you're hearing, I'm just going to throw out some names, Bernie Sanders and whoever else is on the other team
Mhm.
debating, and if you are cynical and you say none of this matters, that would be it's nightmarish, right? It's just over the
Yeah.
loudspeaker and it's in your face and you want to avoid it and you literally cannot. And so there's something very like okay, I'm gonna let that one go for now. But the last movie being about the art world and this one, there felt something super cynical about it,
Mhm.
where the person isn't on either side of the thing that they're sending up. They're not
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, the art world's actually good or bad." They're just saying it's as if to me, what I'm guessing the ending means is that nothing matters. And we're in the state of nature and we are in a continuation of the state of nature.
Mhm.
And what plays out in the world where there's a person and it's all transactional. And I'm seeing this person who catches the fish. I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
she's pure of heart. Maybe she'll lead the utopia. Maybe she'll create a new society, at least for a few days until they get found or something.
Yeah.
Nope. Turns out to be doing a lot of the same bullshit the other people were doing. So I think
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
ambivalence of the director and how this thing is arbitrary. And this is just like, oh, you get away with what you can, you get one over on people when you can, you do what's best for you, you make some mistakes, and it turns out we have a bit of a mess at the end of all that. I think that that's enough of a takeaway and thesis for like what this movie's actually saying.
Mhm.
Not rich people suck, lol, but something much deeper or further removed from that. I have to kind of divorce myself from
Yeah.
that to say, oh, this is what the director's probably saying. For the ending, which
Yeah.
I don't think we went into yet,
No, not yet.
the
Yeah. So, yeah, the way I was painting the picture. So, just setting the scene. So, obviously, you have the new couple on the island because of the transactional and the provider, and all that. And each person provides a need. It gets to a point where, all right, Are we gonna put this out in the open, or are we still gonna kind of keep the secret? You still have the influencer girlfriend who is still uncomfortable with a lot of things. So they decide to go on a hike together. That's the influencer and Abigail, the new captain of the island. They go on this hike and they find out that they've been on a resort island the whole time. So as they find the elevator, right
Yeah.
before they enter, Abigail decides like, well, I have to take a piss real quick first,
Oh,
and then we'll go and all that kind of stuff like that. What's up?
did you believe that she was actually taking a piss? As
No,
soon as
no,
I
no,
saw the
no,
resort?
no,
Okay.
no. That was her
Okay.
excuse that she gave. She said, I have to go
Yeah,
take a
okay.
piss, and then
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So you could tell she's plotting. She's like, I don't want this to end because this is like the best.
I am the
I have the
captain now.
I am the captain. I have the power. I call the shots. I've never had a chance to do this before. There's no way I'm going to be losing this. So she's plotting to basically take out the influencer. She got the rock in hand and she's ready to do it. As she's approaching the influencer, we don't see her face, but we just see her talking, and she's like, Abigail, I feel like I want to do something for you. Maybe you can work for me when we get back and all that. And
That
then
line.
that line, and it just cuts to
Oh,
black. And then we see the model boyfriend, what appears to be him running for his life in the jungle. And then the movie really ends at that point.
that's how you interpret it was running for his life.
That's what it looked like to me. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
valid
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're
Yeah.
wrong. I hadn't thought about that one. I hadn't thought about
Okay.
it too much. I decided to just like let it slow burn in my subconscious and we talk it out.
Yeah.
If it's okay, I'll take one step back.
Please go for it.
As
Yeah.
soon as we see the resort, I go, oh, influencer girl's about to die for sure, which is my own cynical interpretation.
Yeah.
We then see, of course, over the next few minutes, oh, I'm going to go take a piss. And you're thinking, if this influencer girl knew what was good, she'd be watching her back for sure. Nope, she's so naive and been so comfortable in the
Yeah.
roles that these people have been playing. Which reminds me of the dialogue earlier when not the ship captain, there's like the first attendant or whatever, the person, the bootlicker. And she's like, well, may I remind you that you are an employee of a luxury
Right.
yacht? And
Mm-hmm.
these are the customers? And she's like, no, we're around a campfire
Yeah.
and there's no yacht
Yeah.
anymore.
Where's the yacht? Where's the yacht? I don't see the yacht.
Similarly, the question is like, I guess Charlie Dean forgot, or their character forgot in that moment, which we have to. I'm going to throw this in here right now since this is a penultimate moment for this character.
Mm-hmm.
The actress who played Charlie Dean passed on August 29th, and there's an element of that to this movie and its reception, how it's playing out. There's something I don't I'm not going to try to act like I was a super fan or anything like that. I don't know how that affects the movie's rollout. I have to imagine the cast has a unique experience for the press tour stuff of this
Mm-hmm.
movie. That's something to keep in mind. Um, it added something to this movie, and I can't even say what. But knowing that, watching the movie, and then there's a moment where this character is about to get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously the director didn't intend that. Obviously,
No, of course.
I'm wondering. I don't even know if the editing was done by then. I'm sure. Feel free to look it up on some article about this issue. But if they don't show something or would have otherwise, etc. But there was something really not too dissimilar from like Dark Knight and people seeing it because there's an added layer of, oh my gosh, there are real stakes at play in the world that we're interacting with now. It added something there. So anyway, in this movie where this character is about to die, I assume, but the woman who's become the captain is holding the rock, and you're seeing
Yeah.
her transform before your eyes into like a villainous, like
Mm-hmm.
I'd never wanted to kill anyone, but now I have to. And
Yeah.
there's this compromise of this social contract that they were starting to come up with. Almost like there's some Cain and Abel metaphor going on there, where one kills the brother with the rock, and this is like an early step of the people separating and societies moving apart. There's a biblical metaphor there if you want to get into it. I I think that what I'd like to do, if you're up for it, is just give our interpretation of here's what I think happened. Obviously, we
Yeah.
don't know because it's pretty open ended.
Yeah.
We don't see her or hear anything with the rock, right?
No.
Just I mean, I've seen it one time. I That's so wild to me that they end the movie like that. I love it when they end movies like that. I know
Sure.
some people who watch movies more casually who are angry if the movie doesn't make it very clear.
Like clear.
Here
Yeah.
is how everyone ended up.
Yeah.
Even recently, I watched Snowpiercer with a friend like that, and afterward, we kind of know how they end up, but they want that what's it called, the stinger at the end of the movie, where they go,
Hmm.
okay, and 6 months later, everyone's still alive,
Sure.
or whatever it is. I actually hate those stingers. I don't like it when they spell out a movie too clearly. I really love an ambiguous ending
Yeah.
so much because movies to me are not stories. They are not bedtime stories or fairy tales. They are art experiences that are have all the qualities of audio, visual, writing. Every other
Hmm.
art form essentially gets distilled in this. It's the idea of like, oh, I just want someone to tell me a good story and I want to know how it ends. I want there to be a happy ending. Get out of here. That's not
Yeah.
what you should expect from a movie like this, at least. There are movies like that for you if you want them. I think what happens, just based on my own like whatever cynicism, the way I think the way world works, I assume two things, and this is a bit of cutting my losses or hedging my bets. I think that she murders the influencer girl. The society that she goes back to and says, I don't know, she fell or whatever. And then they kind of put things together and realize there's a resort and he's fleeing to either go get help or to get out of there. I didn't see it as running for his life like he's gonna get murdered by the captain.
That's not what I meant, though. When I say
Okay.
running for his life, he's like frantically running. So the
For sure.
appearance of running for his life. I didn't say exactly what I took away from that, though.
I see. Okay, and it's possible if he's running to
Yeah.
the resort, he's going, "This is my salvation." I'm kind of running for my life in that way, or I need to go get help because now this person is now murdering everyone who disagrees with her or whatever. Gosh, there's not enough people in that society to gulag it, ma'am.
Right.
Please. But yeah, the scene is all we really know. Cuts to black, holding the rock, and then he's running so fast, he's getting cut by the
Yeah.
branches and the thorns, and he's still running through. Beautiful camera work and
It was
like
great.
visually stunning,
Yeah.
and it ends and my heart just, what did I just experience? So
Yeah.
what's your theory?
Yeah. So first of all, when it was all said and done and we got the final fade to black, I think there was a great sigh of relief from a lot of us because again, a lot of intense stuff led to that moment, right?
It got horribly
Uh,
uncomfortable.
yeah, it really did. Especially again, if you've ever watched Lord of the Flies, like the movie or read the book, I mean, there's a lot. Once things really hits the fan, it really hits the fan, and
Hard to watch.
it's very hard to watch. And I like to put myself in those scenarios too sometimes. And I'm just like, oh my God, could you imagine experiencing these things happening in front of you? That poor disabled lady always getting left behind because everyone's just so busy fending off for themselves, and you just hear her in the distance at night, that one phrase that she knows in German. It's like that's just awful and horrible. But when this happened, my immediate thought, and I still have the same thought today as we're talking about this, yeah, she kills the influencer. That's a no-brainer for me. Like I see her killing the influencer, and somehow we don't know if this was a same day or days later when homeboy's running through the forest. I think he found out that there is an escape. This is a resort, and there's an easy way for us to get saved and all that.
Okay.
And I think in
So
his mind, survival instinct for himself came into
yeah.
play, and I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So he is running as fast as he could to that
Hmm.
elevator that we haven't seen yet, because I am done with this. Now, of course, the more morbid thing is what you said. she now has this sense of power and thing that anytime someone goes against her, you're dead. And he's just like, I can't deal with this. I'm running for my life and just get away from it all. But I really do think he catches wind that there's an escape.
Or she uses her power and exerts it so successfully that he's in love with her and he's running to the altar to marry the new queen of forever land or whatever. No, there's something really I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Oh
Thank you
yeah.
for being my movie friend. The At the end, they only show his character. And you're thinking, if I'm looking for plot stuff, is there anyone behind him? Is there anyone
Right.
running with him? Did he say, "Hey, everyone come with me"? We have no idea. I think if there's a thesis to the movie, it's kind of what I hinted at earlier, but it's wrapped up in that moment. It's chaos and it's every
Hmm.
person for themselves running forward as fast as they can and not able to even like put the pieces together as we go. It's just
Yeah.
state of nature into like propulsion
Yeah.
and that instinct of if I can steal some pretzels and get away with it, I'll try to. Then I get punished. All of these things. Okay, I'm a fair leader when it comes to food. I think we'll have a debate about it, and then I'm gonna use that to exert influence over someone for physical pleasure, or
Hmm.
whatever. Like every character is which you could say about society if you want to. Everyone's basically in it for themselves, doing the best they can with varying degrees of that. And
Right.
that ending of it's every person for themselves is, I think, and nothing matters
Hmm.
in the world of chaos. I think there's something there. I think that's what the director is going with. If I'm going to put a thesis on it, I'm going to think about it some more though. I'm guessing we'll be talking about this one again at awards time.
I'm
I
sure.
just have
I'm
a
sure.
feeling.
Yeah. And I do think a movie like this probably deserves a second watch because again, you may pick up a lot of things that we may have missed, right? So I'm looking forward to watching this again. But before we close this episode out, and I think we talked brilliantly about this movie, any final last thoughts? Like how did this movie rank for you? Because we talked already about Amsterdam and how that ranked for you. How was this as a cleanser to that experience?
So glad I saw this one second. I'm gonna I'll couch it with 5 stars. That is not just because great directing, acting, story, yada yada. Those things matter a lot to a movie. To me, the ultimate thing that would determine any score would be how the movie made me feel, what the experience was like watching it. And if a movie makes me feel so intensely as this movie did, it makes me think in this kind of way, and I know it's artfully crafted, all the categories we always say, cast, director, cinematography, etc. It's to me, it's a no-brainer. I have to give it 5 stars, but that's because I'm a sucker for a movie giving me an experience and putting me
Hmm.
through something. And it is very effective and affecting the audience. I think no matter what, can't imagine someone going away from this being like fully ambivalent. They at least had a few experiences, whether it was like grotesque or anger or whatever. Well done on that. A movie like that, and this is just my own bias. I'm gonna love it every time. Thank you so much for making this movie. I'm so glad we got to talk about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I feel exactly the same like you. Like the amount of emotions I felt watching this movie, whether it was,
Hmm.
you know, laughter, uneasiness, reevaluating society, like all this kind of stuff. Like the fact that we're having this type of conversation after the movie, and like I said, after my screening, tons of people groups were outside discussing the movie.
Of course.
This
Go to
is
the
one of
plan on
those
going to the
movies.
diner afterward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I could only imagine if we saw this movie together, we would definitely be going somewhere, grabbing food, and sitting down talking for like maybe several hours about this movie because it is a
Right.
conversational movie. And I think that in itself speaks to the brilliance of this movie. And I do highly recommend it to a lot of you out there. This is definitely one of those movies you have to experience and watch because it may ring some stuff within a lot of you. And if anything, it's a great look at, albeit a satirical look at society today, especially with what society deems as important and not important, and kind of how we fend for ourselves in this world that we live in right now, right? So, um, again, curious to hear all your thoughts. Let us know in the
Please.
comments if you've seen this movie. Let us know what you thought about it. Let us know if you agree, disagree with any of the points that we made. If you haven't planned on watching this movie, have we changed your mind maybe? Hopefully that we didn't ruin too much of the movie for you so that you could still watch it in a refreshing state, because I really do think it is important to go into this movie blindly as possible.
But also, there's a lot we left out, and a lot like
Oh, sure.
experiencing these
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
firsthand is very different than hearing people talk about them.
Yeah.
I imagine a visceral experience from everyone in the audience, good or bad. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you haven't, check this one out. Let us know what you think. I'm
No,
fascinated to hear people's reactions to this movie.
absolutely. And let us know if you do end up watching it, what were your theater experiences like? Because I would love to
For
hear
real.
all the different types of reactions, because this is a movie that will garner tons of different reactions out there. So definitely let us know. But that concludes our episode of Movie Time this week. Always a pleasure speaking with you, Blake, about movies and the love of movies and all that. Before we close things out, where could people find you online?
I'm on the website of letterboxd.com. My screen name is Blake Wolf SSN, where you can see me give Amsterdam a cautious 4 stars and Triangle of Sadness a full-hearted 5 stars. And
I
also look
love.
up my list, depressed pixie dream girls.
Yes.
Still, we're still working on it. Maybe a new title soon. We'll flesh that out.
Yeah, I definitely want to help you a little bit with that myself, because that's a fun list there, and I love the cautionary rating too. Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
pretty accurate. That's
A
pretty
week from now, I'll
accurate.
probably drop it to 3.5. We'll see. Yeah.
But as for myself, Low-Key Geek, you could find me through all the handles that you see on the screen: Twitter, Instagram, of course, here on Facebook. Again, if you're brand new to this channel, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified for all future episodes that are uploaded. If you are looking for an audio version of this, you could find it on the Low-Key Geek channel on your podcast platform of choice. Just do the search for Low-Key Geek, and you'll find this episode and many others that you could download. If you have already been listening in audio formats, thank you so much for listening. And again, thank you so much for watching. So, that being said, I'm Rene. This is Blake. This has been Movie Time. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, and we'll catch you all next week. All right, peace out.